go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob. Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob. For the law will go forth from Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. We will walk in his footsteps, and he will teach us his ways. Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob. Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob. For then he will judge many peoples and decide for all nations, both far and wide. Swords will be beaten into plowshares, and nations will not learn war again. Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob. Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, to the house of the God of Jacob, unto the house of the God of Jacob. Get the blood flowing a little bit. Now this one kind of sneaks up on you a little bit. Laid Zion for a foundation of stone. I made Zion for a foundation of stone, a dry stone, a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation, a sure foundation, a dry stone, a precious cornerstone. He that believeth shall live in peace. Wonderful Counselor, the everlasting Father. Wonderful Counselor, Almighty Prince of Peace. I lay in Zion a foundation of stone. Yeah. I lay in Zion for a foundation of stone, a dry stone, a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation, a sure foundation, a dry stone, a precious cornerstone. He that believeth shall live in peace. Hey, Yoes, Vel Gibor, Hey, Yoes, Sar Shalom. I lay all the way, all the time. It's just like, now that we got the blood fountain. And the good thing is that all the verses are exactly the same. So we can sing 100 verses, all the same. So it's a good verse. That was leading into something, wasn't it? Let's see what key I'm really supposed to be in here. Oh, yeah, okay. The Lord is present in His sanctuary. Let us praise the Lord. The Lord is present and His people are gathered here. Let us praise the Lord. Praise Him, praise Him. Let us praise the Lord. Come, let's praise Him, praise Him. Let us praise Yeshua. The Lord is present in His sanctuary. Let us sing to the Lord. The Lord is present and His people are gathered here. Let us sing to the Lord. Sing to Him, sing to Him. Let us sing to the Lord. Come, let's sing to Him, sing to Him. Let us sing to Yeshua. The Lord is present in His sanctuary. Let us love the Lord. The Lord is present and His people are gathered here. Let us love the Lord. Love Him, love Him. Let us love the Lord. Come, let's love Him, love Him. Let us love Yeshua. The Lord is present in His sanctuary. Let us love the Lord. The Lord is present and His people are gathered here. Let us worship the Lord. Worship Him, worship Him. Let us worship the Lord. Come, let's worship Him, worship Him. Let us worship Yeshua. Let's do a nice slow one to finish up. Praise awaits you in Zion. Oh, awaits you in Zion, O God. Praise awaits you in Zion, O God. To you all our vows will all be fulfilled. Praise awaits you in Zion, O God.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So good to see you all here. And now on with the worship service. I think announcements are next, and that's you, Karen.
It was just all nice and relaxed, settled in.
To the moon.
Shabbat Shalom. Thanks for coming out. In the dog days of summer, right? It's hot, hot, hot. Let's see what we have for announcements this evening. Oh, here's some new news. We have a Ohr Chadash dinner coming up on August 30th, Friday night at 6 p.m. before service. There's a sign-up sheet located in the foyer. The cost is $9 per person or $27 per family. And please make a plan to join us. You can put your check in an envelope or cash in a blue box. And it'll just be an easy, quick dinner and just a time to fellowship before we have our worship service. So, that's that. We are signing up all interested greeters. If you're interested in that, see Sharon White. She'll get you set up. On Saturday, August 31st, we have our monthly game night and Havdalah. And then the next big piece of news are the seminary classes that are starting up. There's information here. I understand that you're allowed to come and try out a couple classes to see if it's for you before you make a commitment and before you're asked to pay. But we have some excellent professors, as we all know, and it's really a chance to dive deeper into some interesting topics like the major prophets. Patrice gave us a hint. How many did she say there are last week? There's 3, yes. But I'm going to make you name them. I have the easy quiz. But there's 3 major prophets that she'll be focusing on, and then biblical hermeneutics, mining the riches of the Bible. That's with Rabbi John. We have some financial information there for you to take note of. It is the skinny summer, but we have made it through our big obligations of getting all of our insurances covered, and so that's great. We're rolling along just fine on the new ONEC plan, and I will mention that there are 5 Saturdays in the month of August, and letters F through K, as in Colossi, are tonight, and then we are up again for the fifth night. Each group inherits one fifth night, and ours is August 30th. Okay, with that, relatively light news day today here at Ohr Chadash, and we'll welcome Jacob and Rabbi John, and we'll get started. Oh, I forgot to mention one other kind the recycle box. And I'm going to set it back there. So when you're done with your bulletin, unless you're going to keep your announcements, we're going to remember to drop these in the box on the way through.
I might mention one other thing, and that is not only are there class announcements in the inserts in the bulletin, but on the back table you will also find the whole fall schedule. So there may be some other classes that you definitely want to take advantage of, and you've got the information there. So it's an opportunity, a rare opportunity that we have that not a lot of other places have, because the seminary and the yeshiva happens to be in our building. With that being said, we're now ready to welcome Shabbat. Shabbat is wonderful day. In fact, such a wonderful day that although technically it's Tish B'Av, it's not Tish B'Av. You know, I've welcomed you to Jewish math before, but welcome to the Jewish calendar. Because you're not supposed to do the kinds of things you do on Tish B'Av on Shabbat, so Shabbat has bumped it one day for you. So, because of that and the importance of Shabbat, we now welcome Shabbat as we stand, face the door as if we are literally welcoming Shabbat into our midst with the traditional form of welcome. Jacob and Gary lead us, and we respond with them as we celebrate this wonderful occasion.
Echadodi likrat kala, Hanei Shabbat lekabela. Echadodi likrat kala, Hanei Shabbat lekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala, Hanei Shabbat lekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala, Hanei Shabbat lekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Ishmianu el hamiuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shemo tiferet v'litila. Lechadodi likrat kala, Hanei Shabbat lekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala, Hanei Shabbat lekabela. Lekrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, Ki mikor habracha, Merosh mikadem nasucha, Sof maaseh machshavat chila. Lechadodi likrat kala, Hanei Shabbat lekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala, Hanei Shabbat lekabela. Hitorari, Ki ve'urech kumi ori. Uri, shi'etei be'eri, Kivod Adonai alayich nigla. Lechadodi likrat kala, Hanei Shabbat lekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala, Hanei Shabbat lekabela. Come, my friend, meet the bride. Let's welcome the presence of the Sabbath. Observe and remember in a single statement the unique God caused us to hear his command. He alone is Lord, and his name is unique to his fame and splendor and praise. Together, come, my friend, meet the bride. Let's welcome the presence of the Sabbath. Let's go to meet the Sabbath, for she is the source of blessing from the beginning, anointed from ancient days, though made last, conceived first. Come, my friend, meet the bride. Let's welcome the presence of the Sabbath. Wake up, your light has come. Arise, shine, awake, awake. Sing a grand song. The glory of God is revealed to you. Come, my friend, meet the bride. Let's welcome the presence of the Sabbath.
You may be seated. Building on the words from Isaiah, the verse was, wake up, your light has come. And as we light the Shabbat lights this evening, we get to say, yes, the light of Shabbat has come, but also the one who lights up Shabbat has come as well, as the second lesson reminds us.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu b'habrit ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has set us apart by your commandments and commanded us to light the candles for the Sabbath. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu b'hoyoit or goyim. Lanu, Yeshua Meshikenu, Ha Olam. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who sanctified us by your commandments and commanded us to be a light for the nations and gave us Yeshua, our Messiah, the light of the world. Shabbat Shalom.
As the light of the world, our Tehillah Ohr Chadash portion for this evening, bottom of pages 136 and 137, as it reminds us, is the answer to the prayers of our people as we've prayed them down through the centuries. In synagogues around the world, using those words, we're reminded he has come and has redeemed his people. There has been a horn of salvation raised up for us in the house of his servant David. That response begins, Baruch Adonai Elohei Yisrael, ki pakat et hamo, vayishlach lo pedut vayarem lanu keren Yeshua v'veit David avdo. Together we respond,
Praise be to the Lord, the God of Israel, because he has come and has redeemed his people. He has raised up a horn of salvation for us in the house of his servant David, as he said through his holy prophets of long ago, salvation from our enemies, from the hand of all who hate us, to show mercy to our fathers, and to remember his holy covenant, the oath he swore to our father Abraham, to rescue us from the hand of our enemies, and to enable us to serve him without fear, in holiness and righteousness before him all our days.
Having accomplished that, he sits now in the place of highest authority, as in fact envisioned by the sages, the rabbis of old, in the place of authority in the heavenly realms. We enter that scene, that throne room scene, as it were, as we respond with Elohim Asher on pages 40 and 41.
האלוהים אשר דיבר מקדם פעמים רבות ומדרכים רבות אל האבות ויד הלוויים דיבר אלינו באחרית הימים האלה ביד הבן אשר שם לאור אשתו ידו גם עשה את העולמים וזוהר כבודו וצלם עצמותו ונושא ברח הגבורה ובחש תעשה טיהור חטאים to our fathers through the prophets at many times and in various ways. But now, in the end of days, he has spoken to us by the Messiah, his Son, whom he appointed the heir of all things, and through whom he made the universe. The Son is the full radiance of God's glory, and the flawless manifestation of his reality. He sustains all things by his powerful word. After he made atonement for sins, he sat down in the place of authority beside the majesty in heaven. True and firm, established and lasting, right and faithful, loved and treasured, desired and pleasant, feared and mighty, ordered and acceptable, good and beautiful is this word to us forever and ever.
Please rise, facing Jerusalem, the direction of the ark, as we join on pages 60 to 63 for our Amida portions this evening. They are the abridged and summary sections. The abridged begins by asking, or as the abridged begins, we ask our God, Umo et Livavenu. May you not just direct our hearts, but in fact circumcise our hearts to your worship as we wait the lengthening of the light of your Messiah, the return of the one who sits enthroned in the heavenly realms. Utilize these words and respond in the appropriate places. The abridged and summary of the Yamida. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGabor, V'Hanara, El Elyon, Knei, Shemayim, V'Aretz. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, God of our ancestors. You're the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah. You're the great, the mighty, the revered God, the Most High God, who is master of heaven and of earth.
Magen Avot Bidvaro Bechayei Metim V'Ma'amaro Ha'el HaKadosh Ha'en Kamohu Ha'meniach Le'amo Vayom Shabbat Kadusho V'ham ratza le'aniach lahem Lafanav na'avod be'yira v'afachad V'nodeh lishmo b'kol yom Tamid me'el habarachot El ha'hoda'ot Adon Shalom, Makadesh HaShabbat, U'Barech Shevi'im, U'Meniach B'Kedusha, Le'Abedu Shnei Yonei, Zecher L'Maseh, L'Maseh Bereshit, Zecher L'Maseh, L'Maseh Bereshit.
Together,
He with his word was a shield to our forefathers, and by his voice will raise the dead, the holy God, like whom there is none, who gives rest to his people on his holy Sabbath day, because he delights in them and to grant them rest. Before his presence we will serve him with fear and awe. Daily and constantly we will thank him with the appropriate praises. He is the God to whom thanksgiving is due, the Lord of peace, who hallows the Sabbath and blesses the seventh day, and in holiness gives rest to a people filled with delights in remembrance of the creation.
Our God and God of our ancestors, accept our rest. Hallow us by your commandments, and grant our portion in your Torah. Satisfy us with your goodness. Gladden us with your salvation. Purify our hearts to serve you truthfully. And in your love and favor, O Lord our God, let us inherit your holy Sabbath. And may Israel, who sanctify your name, rest thereon. Ohr Chadash Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Blessed are you, O Lord, you make Shabbat special. You may be seated. Shabbat is special because it reminds us, as we were reminded at the beginning of that paragraph, our God is not only God of our ancestors, he is in fact the shield to our ancestors and to their descendants. That includes us. That's an important reminder, especially when we consider the events that have transpired in our history that Tisha B'Av reminds us of. Very destructive acts, and yet God has preserved us through it all. Which is why then we continue our response in Ohr Chadash, pages 47, as we extend our gratitude to our great God, who is worthy of more than all the praises we can heap on. Pages 47 reminds us.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמך אמן. שעמד יפרח ירוצי וימליך מלכוצי בחייכון וביומכון וחייד כל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמרה במבורך לעולם ולעולם לעולמי יתברך וישתבח ויתברך ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל שמי קדושה בריחו לעילא לעילא מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה בדחמתה באמירן בעלמא ואמרו Amen. Let his name be glorified and sanctified throughout the universe which he created according to his purpose. May he bring about the reign of his kingdom in your lifetime, in your days, and in the lifetime of all the house of Israel, speedily, soon, and let all say,
Amen.
Amen.
Let his great name be praised forever and ever, eternally.
Blessed and praised, glorified and exalted, extolled and honored, magnified and lauded be the name of the Holy One, blessed be he. Although he is far greater than all blessings, hymns, praises, and songs which are offered in the world, and say, Amen.
Truly he is far greater than all blessings, hymns, praises, and songs which are offered in the world, which is why we do so, and as we have in fact done so. And it reminds us to ask that probing question of ourselves. Mikamoka, pages 44 to 45, as we praise him. Who is like you, O Lord, among the gods? That paragraph from pages 44 and 45 reads as follows. Praise our exalted God. Blessed is he who is to be blessed. Moses and the people of Israel sang this song to you with great joy. As they all said, we now all say,
Who is like you, O Lord among gods? Who is like you, glorious in holiness, awesome in praises, doing wonders?
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר הקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אליהם. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אליהם.
As we rise, standing in His presence yet again, join on in Kamoka, pages 88 and 89. We're ready to answer that question. In Kamoka, truly there is none like you, O Lord, among the gods.
אין כמוך באלים אדוני, אין כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אליהם, אוסף אליהם. There is none like you
Among the gods, my Lord, and there is nothing that compares to your deeds. Your kingdom is a kingdom that endures for all eternity, and your sovereignty extends throughout all generations.
Adonai melech,
Adonai malach, Adonai malach le'olam va'ed.
the Lord reigns,
The Lord has reigned, the Lord shall reign throughout eternity.
the Lord will
Bless his people with peace.
Your sovereignty extends throughout all generations, including ours, and it should extend throughout our lives. We acknowledge that reality now as we face Jerusalem again and respond on pages 34 to 39 with the Shema. Truly, you are our Lord and our God, you alone. And so, we acknowledge you as our King and follow you wholeheartedly. Pages 34 to 39.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha v'chol nafshecha v'chol me'odecha. Ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher Elohim etzavcha hayom levavecha. V'shinatam levanecha v'dibartam v'shirtecha b'betecha u'lechtecha derech u'shartecha u'konecha u'ksharta me'ot al yadecha ve'hayu totafot be'einecha u'ktata המזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone. Blessed be He whose glorious kingdom is eternal. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your life, and with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as reminders on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the doorframes of your houses and on your gates.
The reality we have expressed or acknowledged or affirmed for our lives is a reality that will in fact pervade the whole of the earth and the universe itself. As we're reminded on pages 88 and 89, by Hebrew Sela, we're reminded that as once the Torah went forth among us as a people, it will so go forth as the text says, from Zion, the word of the Lord out of Jerusalem throughout the entirety of the world. We anticipate that as the Torah goes forth yet again among us, and we respond in those preachers.
ויהי בצהרון ויאמר משה קום אדוני ויפוצו אויביך וינוסו משנאיך מבניך
כי מציון תצא תורה, כי מציון תצא תורה, ודבר אדוני מירושלים. ברוך שנתן תורה תורה, ברוך שנתן תורה תורה לעמו ישראל לקדושתו.
And it came to pass, whenever the ark went forward, Moses would say, Arise, O Lord, and let your enemies be scattered. May those who hate you flee from before you.
For from Zion shall go forth the Torah, and the word of the Lord out of Jerusalem. Blessed be he who in holiness gave the Torah to his people Israel.
We continue our response to the Torah, the treasure that he gave us. That response is found on page 133.
The ark now unveils its treasure.
To our eyes and minds and hearts.
Inside the scroll of Torah stands.
It stands there with all its richness and wisdom.
As we listen, voices speak, voices of our ancestors.
Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Joseph, and Moses.
O God, they bring us your instructions for us.
Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, and Miriam speak to us as well.
O God, they move us to respond to your promises to us.
We
We are grateful for your words, the words of Torah.
Hear, O Israel, the Lord calls.
We will hear your words that we may learn them, love them, and live them.
What does the Lord require of you? To fear him, love him, serve him, and walk in all his ways.
All the Lord has said, we will do.
Mi shebarach avotenu Avraham, Yitzchak, veYaakov. He who blessed our fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. May he bless Matt. May he bless Janice. May he bless John. And may he bless Alex, who have come up to honor God and the Torah. May the Holy One bless them and their families, and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of their hands. Baruch et Adonai HaMvorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMvorach le'olam ha'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Bless the Lord who is blessed.
Bless the Lord who is blessed forever and ever.
Blessed are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who chose us from all peoples, gave to us the Torah, and blessed are you, Lord, giver of the Torah.
אלה הדברים אשר דיבר משה אל כל ישראל בעבר הירדן במדבר בערבה מול סוף בין פרן ובין תופל. You may be seated. We've started a new book. As the text says, Ele hadvarim. Devarim, Deuteronomy. And so it says, these are the words which Moses spoke to all of Israel across the Jordan, in the desert, on the plains, opposite Suf, between Paran and Tofel, Tofel. And then it lists some more of the places around. For the importance of some of these places, you need to do two things. Number one, you need to check where these places occur in the earlier part of the story, and you need to check where these places occur on the map. In other words, you need to take the historical geography of the Bible lands course that Dr. Patrice teaches, and not for that particular commercial. And so the story unfolds. I'm not going to say a whole lot about the story here, but I do want to just say one thing about the Haftarah passage. It's not being read to you tonight because we're reading two parts from the Parsha for tonight. The Haftarah is Isaiah chapter 1. It's a powerful chapter, and it's an appropriate one at this particular time as we move into Tish B'Av, but also, interestingly enough, very appropriate at our particular point in history, including in recent history of these last number of days. In a sense, the Haftarah is summarized by verse 17 of chapter 1. It says, learn to do good, seek justice, correct oppression, and therefore reach out to those who are being oppressed. Bring justice to the fatherless, those left without parents, and plead the widow's cause. So Isaiah reminds us in a very timely fashion at this particular time. Yeah, that's all.
I'll be reading from Deuteronomy 1, verses 20 to 21, and then jumping over to 29 through 31. There I said to you, you have come to the hill country of the Amorites, which Adonai, our God, is giving to us. Look, Adonai, your God, has placed the land before you. Go up, take possession, as Adonai, the God of your ancestors, has told you. Don't be afraid and don't be dismayed. I answered you, don't be fearful, don't be afraid of them. Adonai, your God, who is going ahead of you, will fight for you on your behalf, just as he accomplished all those things for you in Egypt before your eyes. And likewise in the desert, where you saw how Adonai, your God, carried you, like a man carries his child, along the entire way you traveled until you arrived at this place.
Deuteronomy chapter 2, verses 2 through 6. Finally Adonai said to me, you have been going around this mountain long enough. Head north and give this order to the people. You are to pass through the territory of your kinsmen, the descendants of Esau, who live in Seir. They will be afraid of you, so be very cautious, and don't get into disputes with them. For I am not going to give you any of their land, no, not even enough for 1 foot to stand on, inasmuch as I have given Mount Seir to Esau as his possession. Pay them money for the food you eat, and pay them money for the water you drink.
Before the closing blessing, there is a third reading. You thought I forgot, didn't you? Take out your bulletins and follow along. Are you ready, Hebrew students? All right, here we go. And I want to hear you. Eleh Hadvarim Asher Diber Moshe El Kol Yisrael Ba'ever HaYarden Ba'midbar Ba'arava Mosuf Bein Paran Uvein Tofel. Thank you. And now you've had the privilege of reading the Parsha as well.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam natan tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Blessed are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who gave us the Torah of truth and life everlasting planted in our midst. Blessed are you, Lord, giver of the Torah.
Yes, as we have acknowledged for the last number of minutes, he's the one who gave us the Torah. These are the words that came directly from him to our ancestors. And as our ancestors gladly received them, so also do we. As we now stand, as they stood before him, and we say, acknowledge, these are the words that you've given us directly through the hand of Moses. The Zohar Torah, pages 98 and 99. If you need the transliteration, it's page 95.
Zot HaTorah Asher Sam Moshe Lifnei Bnei Yisrael Al Pi Adonai Beyad Moshe.
This is the Torah which Moses placed before the children of Israel.
It is in accord with the Lord's command by the hand of Moses.
You may be seated. If we truly understand what these words are, words coming directly from God intended to impact our lives, then we will acknowledge that we want them to impact our lives, which we do when we respond with its height. It's a tree of life, waiting to take root in our lives. And so, as it does that, we can say we knew our days as of old, and that is exactly what we said on those scriptures.
It's Chaim Machzikim Ba V'Tom Pe'ah Me'ushar V'Racheha Darkei Noam V'Chol Nativotei Shalom Hashivenu Adonai Elecha Ve'Yashua Chadesh Avinu Chadesh Yameinu Ke'enem Hashivenu Adonai Elecha Ve'Yashua Chadesh Avinu Chadesh Yameinu Ke'enem. A tree of life it is to those who take hold of it, and happy are those who support it. Its ways are ways of pleasantness,
and all its paths are peace. Turn us, Lord, to you, and let us return. Renew our days as of old.
As he renews our days, we're better equipped to stand before him as his priests, which we now do as we rise and respond with Uzucho Yomar, and continue to express our gratitude as well as our commitment to him. Pages 98 and 99.
Uvilchol Yomar, Shuva Adonai Rivavot Alfei Yisrael. When the ark rested, Moses would say, Return, O Lord, to the myriads of Israel's families. Arise, O Lord, to your resting place, you and your mighty ark. Clothe your priests with righteousness. May those who have experienced your faithful love shout for joy. For the sake of your servant David, don't delay the return of your Messiah. I give you good instruction. Do not forsake my Torah.
And now as we greet one another on the Bama, we invite you to greet one another in the pews.
I went to synagogue my father. How I grew up in different schools. Yes.
Okay, enough already of all the greeting. She may be looking for the microphone, which I've got here. Tonight we have a very special privilege. We will get to hear from Dr. Patrice as she opens up for us the opening words of this wonderful book.
As soon as we can find her.
I was about to say that, as soon as we can find her.
She thought she had a few minutes.
Yeah. Well,
Stall.
It was a priest, a minister, and a rabbi. And they ran into a bar. And all suddenly they were flat on their faces because the bar was this high. You're still not here. They're only going to get worse. Yeah, it's tough for it to get worse than that, huh? I think about ready to break into another song. Yeah, go right ahead. We'll sing her. Oh, there she is.
Good evening, Shabbat Shalom.
Good evening. Shalom.
There are several things I could say that I'm not going to say. Mainly about the restroom being down the hall. Shabbat Shalom. Yeah. So the formal title of this little time we're going to spend together is, it's an introduction to Deuteronomy. I don't know how many of you woke up this morning saying, gee, I wish someone would introduce me to Deuteronomy. Probably not too many. It's okay, I understand. And the subtitle is, What Stuff Does the Lord Want Me to Know? Now, I realize it is Shabbat. This congregation tends to be very informal, but I didn't just pick the word stuff out because it's can be dismissive. It can be, you don't refer to important things with the term stuff. If you remember, way back in the last century, there was a comedian named George Carlin. And one of my favorite things he ever did, outside the football, baseball thing, was a whole explanation of the concept of my stuff is really important and is valuable, but your stuff is hideous and junky and needs to be gotten rid of. Do you remember that? You can imagine how it goes on from there. Like what we consider our stuff is important to us as a person, but what on the outside it looks like may not seem that important to you. But I do come by the name of this book with the term stuff quite intentionally and not in a dismissive way, and not because stuff is the equivalent of junk. On the contrary, the book of Deuteronomy is serious. It is maybe the most theologically oriented of the 5 books of the Torah. In many ways, it illuminates the previous 4 books as we've come to know them and gives them a context which helps the people of Israel to apply the lessons they learned in the wilderness. And they did learn lessons, didn't they? Nod. If I were to ask you to name 3 lessons the people learned in the wilderness, maybe your quiz paper would not look so good when I corrected it. That's okay. During this time of transition from Moses to Joshua, it's going to be vital that people remember the kinds of problems they've already faced during the past 38 years, and more importantly than remembering those incidents is remembering God's character and what he showed them he was like, and God's promises to them. Now, the name Deuteronomy comes from the Septuagint name. The name in Hebrew is Devarim. Devarim means words. It means words. So Ela Devarim are the first 2 words in the book. And so it's sort of humorous that it would be named words. Deuteronomy, the name, comes from the Greek, the Septuagint, the first translation of the Hebrew Scriptures into the Greek language, done about 400 years before Yeshua was born. So a long time before Yeshua. And it's a double part word. So Deutero meaning 2 or second, and nomos supposedly meaning law. Those of you who have been through the rabbi's fabulous roots courses probably would say, well, nomos is not really best translated as law, is it? Is it, students? Okay. You'll have to teach those courses until they get it right here. Nomos means teaching, instruction, right? Well, who says it meant law? We'll move along. We'll move along. So, Deuteronomy, it's a mouthful, or Devarim. But here's the thing about Devarim. In modern Hebrew, it no longer means words. It has generalized, which is an actual linguistic process. The word Devarim has generalized and become more general. And it now, Devarim in modern Hebrew are things. Things. Or, if you stop the person on the street in Jerusalem, they may say, Devarim, oh, that's stuff. Stuff, because things, stuff, even in English, especially in English. So when I'm saying stuff, I'm referring directly back to the book of Devarim. What Devarim does the Lord want me to know? Isn't that the final ending of all the things we study and all the sermons we hear and all the Bible discussions we have is, what do I have to know? That's really, really important. Well, we are dragging the synagogue into the late 20th century, whether it wants to go or not. Because, okay, where are they going? In the book of Devarim, what's going on? Why do we have it? What's happening? You can think of it almost as one long sermon given by Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses. Now, they are no longer at Rafidim, and now I apologize, slicha, but you see under the big red pointer there to the right, and not very clear, I don't know who to blame for that. It says Mount Sinai, Mount Sinai. And Mount Horeb isn't simply another name for Mount Sinai. They're almost interchangeable. And that's the starting point of the considerations in this book of Deuteronomy. This is your final sermon that you're getting, because your final destination is going to be from Mount Sinai to Gilgal. And once again, I apologize for the quality. Like, look at my home computer. Look how nice that is. It's Google Images. I'm just going to blame Google Images. In the center of the map there is Gilgal. You can see that it's to the northeast of Jericho. Last week, our people were in Shittim. I think I mentioned this a couple weeks ago when I spoke. Shittim is over on the right part of the map, just north of Baal Peor. And Shittim is that name that you should not say, make 8th graders read out loud, because they will not come back to you. They will just be, bursting into giggles for the next 10 minutes. Shittim is a word that means acacia trees. We have an acacia tree out here on our front. It's the beautiful, elegant sort of a evergreen that comes up to a point. That's a type of Shittim tree. They were there at the last point we met them, but they're going to cross the Jordan River. You can sort of see the road there. They're going to cross the Jordan River, and things happen there, but they're going to make base camp at Gilgal. And you can see Gilgal right there in the center of the map. Basically northwest of the Dead Sea, the sea where there are things that do live in the Dead Sea. You just can't see them without a microscope. And you can see Gilgal is going to be their base camp for the whole conquest of Canaan. They're going to keep the women, children, household goods, everything's going to be at Gilgal. So they're across the river. They're technically in the land of Canaan. And there you can see, as I put up here, just a hop, step, and a jump to Jericho. In fact, from Jericho, they could probably see all them down there. That's them. And then the next town that they go up the blue route to the west, and you come to Ai, which is pronounced I, not AI. Not AI. Yeah, AI. I could go into that, but it's I. And I means ruin. Interesting enough. Can you go there today? Sure. It's boring. It's in the West Bank. And it probably, I was there many years ago, and then it was like a bean patch. It was a farmer's bean patch. Believe they got permission. But from Ai, you can see down the valley that they're going to follow to Jericho. You can see it. So they're just going to walk up the valley, literally walk up the valley, after they do Jericho and Ai. And they'll be into more or less the center of the country. So that's the big plan. That's what the procedure will be. What could possibly go wrong? Thank you for laughing. What could possibly go wrong? And if you don't know the answer to that question, Possibly you would want to study the book of Joshua a little bit more. Several things do go wrong, don't they? But the base camp is at Gilgal. So here's our plan. We've got the sermon that's going to describe what kinds of things they should do and what kinds of things they should avoid. So it's all clear for us here, except there isn't really a roadmap, is there? And as a matter of fact, many times people think that the time in the wilderness was a bad, bad time. They were disobedient, and so the Jewish people had to wander because they did the wrong thing all the time in the wilderness, and that's why it's called the wandering in the wilderness, because it never should have happened like that. And they would have gotten there much faster if they had followed the Lord and what He told them to do. How many of you sort of think that's true? Yeah, good luck with that, because it's not true. How do I know it's not true? First of all, who told them when and where to walk? God. How did He do that? He set the fire during the evening and the clouds during the day. And so did they just wander on willy-nilly if the cloud or the fire stopped? No. They stayed there, didn't they? Well, why didn't they think for themselves? If God was leading them on a path of total randomness in punishment for everything they did wrong, then why didn't God tell them different? Why didn't some of them set out on their own so they could make their own way and wouldn't get, saddled with this bunch of yahoos that won't listen to God? Because it would be certain death to leave the group. If you want to go on your own and leave the group, who's going to provide for you then? Because who's providing the clothing, the food, the places to set up the camp? Who provides all that? The Lord. Do they know that? Yes, they do. Because when they have complaints, they go right back to Him and say, listen, we're missing those onions and garlics that we had in Egypt. We miss meat. Remember, they complain all the time. That doesn't mean they're being disobedient. It means they're complaining. Everybody see the difference in that? Everybody gets that? Yeah. Oh, if you have a 2-year-old, or have experienced a 2-year-old, or have a 2-year-old grandchild, or seen a 2-year-old next door, you've got the answer right there. They don't intend to be disobedient. But boy, it's hard work, right? And here's the thing you should never do. Let the 2-year-old do whatever they feel like. Because, if God loves me, I'm free. Is that so? Yeah, the 2-year-old. You love that 2-year-old more than your life yourself. You give it your last bite of food. But are you going to let the 2-year-old do whatever they think they want to do right now? Well, you're going to have to watch them every second. It's not going to go well. And we each have our own 2-year-old. They never grow up. Do they? I hear my 2-year-old saying things every now and then. Do you hear yours? No, Patrice, it's just you. You need some help. That's true. I need some help. So then where is this plan? How come Moses, as he's speaking to them and putting this all in perspective, because remember the next major life event, other than getting up north and getting to Gilgal and setting up the camp, is the conquest of the land they have been sent to get back. That's their next big, I was going to say problem, but adventure. That's their next big adventure. He must have good reasons to just lay out the plan, except he just tells them what they've been through before. So what kind of plan do they need, or do we need? because having a road map is extremely helpful. Yes? Although, you know, the maps on your phone, they're very good. They've saved my life several times myself. I'd still be driving around certain areas if I didn't have those maps. But prior to that, to this generation, we didn't have any maps like that. How do we put the pieces that Moses is saying together to make a plan that everyone can identify, that everyone can follow, that everyone can say, I'm getting up tomorrow morning and I'm brushing my teeth and I'm going to go here? Because it's not there. It's not there. Especially if we break it all apart into different verses. Unfortunately, nowadays, we just like to pick and choose verses that we enjoy in the book of Deuteronomy. It's not such a good way to make a map or make a plan, is it? Grabbing individual verses that gave me a blessing as I read them is not a way to make a plan, and yet that's the primary way that many people get their news from God, and it's not helping. As I've used an example before, we can think of God's plan or God's word or the scriptures as a beautiful cloth. Let's start with a beautiful cloth. Beauty of plaid. You know, life is so full of many, many interesting things that they all work together, and my plaid of my life is not like your plaid. And I don't know which one of these plaids you like the most, but you know, certain plaids, yeah, I like that one, I would wear that color, or no, I don't like that one as much over there. I like it when the lines, yellow lines are dispersed. I don't like it when the yellow lines are clumpy. I made up those plaids because there was this art thing that John and I were working on. Don't ask, it takes a long time to explain. But anyway, it allowed you to make plaids, and these are a couple of examples of the plaids I made. And I personally like the one on the left better. It worked out better. You know, you're making all these things, and let's see how it works out. I would prefer mine to have diagonal lines, but you couldn't do that. That was impossible. So, the beauty of plaid. Very nice. Let's imagine you're an ant. And you are walking from one corner of the plaid, up there, pick either one, to the next. What will you see as you walk? Your little tiny body will start walking. Start walking, and depending on which color you're in, you'll see some colors right there off in the distance, and those look interesting. And then you'll cross through that time period, and then you'll enter a new square. These all tend to be squares and rectangles, and your little ant legs will continue to walk forward, and you'll have a different viewpoint depending on what area of the square you're in, correct? Yes? So just humor me on this. Let's suppose God is the quilt weaver, and we are the ants. What kind of perspective do we as ants have on the whole picture? It's not very clear, is it? It's the yellow over there looks sort of nice. Maybe I like the yellow better than what I'm in, or I'm really strong on this green, but I'm not sure the red goes. So I'm going to avoid the red. As the plaid weaver, do you see how sometimes silly and misdirected an ant could get based on where they're walking and how quickly they're walking? The plaid is beautiful. Agreed? I like it. Now let's think one step further. These are quilts. The one on the left is it doesn't show you the nice blue. It's a nice sky blue background, but it's very simple, is it not? And you could make that, looks more like a map, would you agree? You could walk on the brown lines and you would see the blue around you, and then there's white, so it's mainly 3 colors. But you see the format, very clear. see the, almost like overpass and underpass. So this is the main way. The ant says, if I like this orange, I'm not gonna walk in the blue, I can go this way. But there's only a limited number of ways you can go. Now the one on the right is actually a quilt from Japan. Japan likes quilting too. And that is a literal representation of the Tokyo subway system made into a quilt. So it is actually a real map. And you can see it's complicated. It's colorful. It's very nice, isn't it? Very nice. And in London, you can get T-shirts and you can get everything with the subway system of London, and it's 6 times more complicated than that. So Tokyo has a fairly regular subway system. Which one do you want to choose a path from? These are easier. So as I've asked myself, and seeing myself as an ant on God's big quilt, and where I'm walking, and what square I'm in, and if there's flowers around me, or if there's plaid around me. And the color scheme seems to change as I walk along, but I'm still in the quilt. I didn't leave the quilt. See how handy a metaphor this is? And even those there, if I choose one of those, one will be fairly, some of you would say regular and expected, and you like it that way. I would say boring and restrictive, and I'd feel like a prisoner that way. This one on the right of Tokyo, sure, it seems awfully regimented. So I've never really wanted to be an ant on either one of those 2 quilts. As a matter of fact, as I've looked at my life, I'm old now. And I'll show you what my map looks more like. That's called a crazy quilt. In fact, it's a really good representation of a crazy quilt. And some of it is the difference in the beautiful fabrics, but there's been embroidery and buttons and I don't know what else. It really is a work of art, isn't it? Even though when you first look at it compared to the map of Tokyo, oh, this is wild and crazy. But an ant on this map, an ant on this quilt, looks around and every 6 steps there's a different set of colors. Where do I go now? What would be the best way? Huh. Or will any way forward work for me? I guess it depends on the individual.
I go around the edge.
Well, can't leave the quilt. Do not leave the quilt. Oh, you want to be on the blue stripe? Yeah, I would say that'd be a good retreat place, but I don't know if I'd want to stay on the blue stripe. Yeah, you're right. That is a good way to use that metaphor. If you're the ant, let me just get to that really nice plain orange piece that's in the around about 3 o'clock there. That sort of is a nice place. So the wide shot. You're going to the movies. You're looking at all the tumbleweeds in the desert. You're looking at all the hawks are flying in the sky. You're looking at the no trees. You're looking at you're concentrating on the trees, lack of trees, the little scorpions that are running around, the rocks, the lack of water. And then the director takes you back and it's a wide shot and you get to see the whole thing. And that's what we're doing in the book of Deuteronomy. The metaphor of the ant on the quilt instructs us to consider the value of the bird's eye view, the value of the widescreen movie shot showing us the big view of the scene. It's important to not just look at individual pieces, because on this, you'd go nuts. There's no sorting pile you can put them in. If you have all squares and rectangles, you can sort those pretty good. You'll have a very quiet and uneventful life. but you can sort the squares. I'm not sure I like that life, but you have a considerable amount of choices. The only rule is don't leave the quilt. Because, well, when you leave the quilt, you can see the whole thing. And there's positives and negatives to that. So, it's important to not just cut the cloth, not just cut up Deuteronomy into little pieces. And take pieces out that I like. And I don't like that color, so I won't use that one, but I like this color here. If you've got a quilt like this, you can fit in everything. And even make it look nice if you want. What should we be looking at as we look at Devarim this time? We have about 6 weeks until the new year. What should we be concentrating on? This is the long, hot summer. The long, hot summer happens every year between which two holidays? In the fall, in the spring there was Shavuot, Passover, Shavuot, and in the fall, I think it's the 29th of September.
Yeah.
Rosh Hashanah, the new year. This is the book we will be on until the new year. What should we be looking for? I have a few ideas. What Devarim should I remember? The key verbs. Hear, listen, obey. I want to remind you, some of you don't know, but I'm going to remind you all anyway. These 3 words are different in English. They're not really different in Hebrew. Hearing and listening are 2 different things in English, and we can describe that. One is, I heard the noise down the street somewhere. But listening is something different, isn't it? Yes. Listening is what the Hebrew intends every time. Not just I vaguely hear some trash cans rattling in the distance. Hearing. Listening. Everything. Listen to everything. And by listening, they don't mean, I'm going to sit here quietly and listen for God to speak to me. Listening means obeying. You haven't finished listening in Hebrew until you've obeyed. That's very different, isn't it? We need to keep that in mind as he's talking to us through the book of Deuteronomy. Hearing is not enough. Even listening, you're not quite done. You're on a good beginning. Obeying is the final part of listening. So they almost become interchangeable in the Hebrew. Fear. Not, I'm so afraid to go into the desert because there's no water and I don't know how to cook plants. And that's not the kind of fear it's referring to, is it? It's fearing. This is a problem in English, once again, not a problem in Hebrew. The problem in English is fear means being scared of and also respecting and caring about what that person is saying. If you fear a person, you could be afraid and hide in the corner and just be quiet. But usually it means to respect. And once again, somehow tied in with obeying. But at any rate, to make sure that the person you are fearing believes that you care about what they're saying. That is respect, is it not? The fear of the Lord, the respect that the Lord is due, mentioned 18 times in 30 chapters. Seems to be important. So those are some key verbs that you'll see in the book of Deuteronomy. Key concepts. God is a warrior. Is one of the main concepts in the book of Deuteronomy, the book of stuff. God is a warrior. That means I have to be a warrior too. No, not necessarily. Please read the context. God is a warrior. That should help you with the hearing, listening, obeying, and fearing. Because if God is the main warrior that is leading this group On whose shoulders is it going to rest? On God. He's in charge. He's in charge. Especially during this part, Moses really is not a general in the pure sense. Joshua is going to be the pure general. Joshua is seen as a very, very fine military general. And I know in War College in Israel, when they study famous battles of the world to analyze how effective they are, Joshua is seen as a very fine commander and a very fine planner of battles. And they still study these battles there. God is a warrior in this book. We haven't seen him be a warrior, have we, yet in the scriptures? Think back, Genesis? No. Exodus? No. Leviticus? Numbers? Oh, now, God is a warrior. And we can picture him as a warrior. And Joshua will be the best human example of that. 57 times it says, Israel is the possession of the Lord. 57 times in 30 chapters. That's amazing, really. That's amazing. God says, you're mine. I got this. Remember the 2-year-old runs out into traffic? You have to sort of stop him. And what do you say? No, I got this. I got this. You're in good hands. I'm a warrior, and you're my possession. I'm taking good care of you. There's no oopses. There's no oopses. Love in second law. Oh my gosh. Love in second law. Actually, the word love in Hebrew, ahava, occurs more times in the book of Deuteronomy than in any other book of the whole Tanakh. Woo-hoo. Well, isn't love the opposite of law? If you love somebody, set them free? Yeah, no. Love. Love occurs more times than in the book of Psalms, than in the book of Job, than in the book of Song of Solomon. 17 times God talks about love and his love for his people and his possession in a good way. So, you might want to think that law is the opposite of love, or law counteracts love, or law doesn't allow for love. Then you might not be thinking in a particularly Jewish-centered world. And that if there's one thing we're doing, trying to do at the synagogue, is help you to see what it's like to live in a Jewish-centered Bible. The Jewish-centered Bible understands that love is the reason for these silly, ridiculous little tiny laws that no one can obey. I was kidding. 17 times love is mentioned. Remember to remember, a bunch of you probably know this, but I'm just going to repeat it, just in case there's people here who don't. In the Jewish worldview, in the Hebrew language, remembering is not a mental state. Remembering in English is, oh, my brain did not work correctly. Oh, my brain slipped a cog. Oh, I didn't write it down, so I forgot to accomplish it. It would be all something that goes wrong mentally. But remembering, once again, is like hearing and listening in Hebrew. It involves action. It's not just, I could have had a V8 if I had only hypothetically gone to the refrigerator. No. To remember someone is to act on their behalf. To forget someone is to fail to act on their behalf. The best example was the scripture says that a little later, a woman named Hannah is desperate for a child. And the scripture says, and God remembered Hannah. and she got pregnant with one of our favorite people in the Bible, Samuel, correct? Oh, that means that God got so busy looking after all the people in the world that he forgot about her. No, that would be the English way. That would actually be the Greek-oriented way of seeing it. To remember is to act on behalf of someone or something, and to forget is to fail to act on someone or something. Remembrance and its inverse concept to forget. Now, some people say, well, remembering is the opposite of forgetting. No. It's the inverse. Remembering and forgetting all involve action or lack of action. That's how you can test that idea of being opposite. And how many times are we invoked to remember or to understand what it means? 30 times in 30 chapters. Once again, pretty important. And this is going to be almost the last thing I'm going to tell you that we should keep in mind. One of the first things that Yeshua did in his ministry, you can find it in either Matthew 4 or Luke 4, take your pick, I looked in Luke this time, is the next day it says he went over Mount Scopus. Literally, if you are on the campus on top of Mount Scopus in Jerusalem and you want to go there like I did, I got to see the campus for a whole summer, and you're there on the edge of the campus, instead of looking down toward the city of Jerusalem, you just turn your back and Jerusalem's behind you, and now you're looking away from Jerusalem, from Mount Scopus, and within 3 feet, it's the wilderness, it's the desert. The wilderness is right there. It's not hundreds of miles away. It's right there. The minute you go away from any kind of irrigation, you're in the wilderness in Jerusalem. And so he just walks over the hill, and there he's in the wilderness. Now, many people have a lot of poetry in their hearts about Yeshua in the fact that he represents the Jewish people in a lot of ways, right? Would you say that's nice? It's a nice thing to say. I think it's fairly accurate. And in this way, the minute that Luke starts saying, and he walked in the wilderness, and so now you, as you have a very good idea of what the Jewish mindset in your mind is. The words that Yeshua went to the wilderness. Oh yeah, I know what that's like. We studied about that, right? Jewish people experienced that. So yeah, Yeshua's going to do the same thing. And what happened as he's in the wilderness? Did he get to follow the cloud and the fire? Not exactly. What happened? Something significant happened. Somebody started talking to him. And who was it? Yeah, Hasatan. Hasatan. Satan means, the Hebrew word means adversary. Hasatan means adversary. The adversary. And what sort of stuff does Hasatan say to Yeshua? Hey Yeshua, what? He offers some things, right? If you'll do this, I'll give you that. Let's make a deal. Every single time Yeshua says, thanks but no thanks. And every single time, the way he answers Satan is verses from the book of Deuteronomy. This is how important Yeshua saw the book of Deuteronomy. He didn't use Psalms, he didn't use Genesis, he didn't use, I don't know, 2 Samuel, David, something David said. David had a lot of good quotes. He quotes Deuteronomy back at Hasatan. And what does he give up? What does he say? No thanks. Thanks but no thanks. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm saying that's not what I'm here to do. Remember, he's going to give him all the kingdoms of the world if he'll bow down. And Yeshua says, thanks but no thanks, because Deuteronomy tells us this. And the gospel writers thought it was so important to include that in a very, very short biography of Yeshua that it must be important. It must be important. So I'd say that would be a good story maybe to remind yourself of. Because what he's offered, 3 different things, 3 different responses, no thanks from the book of Deuteronomy. So, this is the stuff to remember from the book of stuff, the book of Devarim. And 2 ideas. I am an ant walking on a crazy quilt. Why should I expect my life to be laid out in a linear fashion? It's a very beautiful quilt. With a lot of things going on. And even if I stick to the blue margins, it's still pretty great. Still have the view from the blue margin. But why should I expect my life to be laid out in a very clear and organized fashion? Just something to think about. And then J.R.R. Tolkien. This is a famous saying. You can find it on t-shirts, probably coffee mugs. And it's our answer to one of them, to the idea that the Jewish people were lost and complaining and bitching. I will use that word. And nothing was right, everything was wrong. Were they obedient? They had to be. They were forced to be. But they were wandering, not in an aimless way, because God was not helping them to get out of this stuck place. God was guiding them every step of the way. It's a different attitude about what was going on during those years in the wilderness. If we don't see those years as the honeymoon that Jeremiah said it was, once again, any other viewpoint, then God is getting to know his people and they are getting to know him. And anyone who's been on a honeymoon can attest, things are different than you ever thought they would be. I'm just saying. Things are different than you ever thought that they would be. If you say, no, everything on my honeymoon was just the way I expected things, then maybe I should talk to you later because I don't even know what that means. Not all who wander are lost. Not all who wander are being punished. Not all who wander are off the correct path. But all who wander and are looking for the right path they will find it if they depend on the map maker and not on how they feel that day or whether their feet hurt or whether they had enough water that morning. If they're depending on the map maker in the training program that they're in, then we can see the beauty and the love in the book of Deuteronomy. Let's pray. Avinu, Malchenu, our Father and our King, you are a great God, and it is a privilege to serve you. Thank you for leading us on our paths. Thank you for bringing us together. Thank you for everything we learned during Shabbat and during the week and in seminary classes. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. Thank you for giving us this building. Thank you for giving us good friends and just enough stuff to be happy. Help us, guide us during this time as we prepare for the new year. Show us the paths we should be walking on. Lead us away from things that tangle us up or annoy us or get in our way. Help us to make clear decisions and to continually depend on you. for all your paths are peace. Hashem Yeshua Meshachim, in the name of Yeshua, our Messiah. Amen.
Striking reminder that as our ancestors were camping with the Creator, in one sense, so also we continue to do so ourselves. The Elenu allows us to look at the end of that time of camping with the Creator, when the world will be perfected under the rule of the Lord Almighty. And in the meantime, we want it to be perfected in our own lives. And so we rise, facing Jerusalem, once again, and respond with pages 102 to 107, the feeling.
Aleinu l'sheach Adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו כחמונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגבי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד. פסולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום, והשווה אותה, אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד.
It is
incumbent upon us to praise the Master of all, to exalt the Creator of the world, for He has made us distinct from the nations, unique among the families of the earth. Our destiny is not like theirs. Our calling is our task. We bow down and acknowledge before the King of Kings that there is none like Him. For He stretched forth the heavens like a tent and established the earth. Truly there is none like our Lord and King. As the Torah says, you shall know this day and reflect in your heart that is the Lord who is God in the heavens above, and on the earth beneath there is none else. We hope, O Lord our God, to soon behold your majestic glory, when all abominations shall be removed and all false gods shall be at an end. Then shall the world be perfected under the rule of the Lord Almighty, and all mankind shall call upon your name. For to you every knee must bow, and every tongue declare that you are God. Reign over us soon and forever. May the kingdom of David's greater Son be established forever. For then shall the words be fulfilled, the Lord shall be king forever, and the Lord shall be king over all the earth. On that day the Lord shall be one, and his name one. V'nei amar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz v'yom hahu yihye Adonai echad u'shamo echad.
Please remain standing. Just a few reminders before Jacob leads us and we conclude. Up and coming, a number of interesting events. Make sure you take advantage of them. And that means what you need to do is keep the inserts in the bulletin, put them on your refrigerators, and the outer part of the bulletin. What do we do with that? Recycle box. Thank you. Some of the stuff that's available is some courses that you definitely want to take advantage of. If you haven't done so already, you really need to do so. And some of them are free, which is even better. You've got a Rosh Chodesh dinner and a sign-up on the back table. It's a delightful time of celebrating Rosh Chodesh and Shabbat together with the community and the family. And then at the end of the month, we not only conclude the end of the month in a Havdalah fashion, we conclude Shabbat with Havdalah. As it turns out, it falls on August 31st. So it's a double Havdalah, so to speak. If you haven't figured that out yet, see me afterwards, and I'll point you to somebody else who'll tell you. And now as we conclude, an invitation to join us, of course, in the Oneg room to continue our celebration of Shabbat. But now we're ready to receive the blessings that God has promised to shower on us as Jacob leads us in reaching our hands and taking what God has provided for us.
Our God and God of our fathers, bless us with the threefold blessing. Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotinu berachinu be'beracha ha'meshulashetz. Yivarechacha Adonai ve'yismarecha. Ya'er Adonai panav alecha v'yichunecha. Yisa Adonai panav alecha. Ve'yasem lecha shalom. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace.